Hi, Keith Abell here. Just shooting another quick blog post today. Actually shooting this from outside on my deck, enjoying an absolutely beautiful day. Not a cloud in the sky. It's a beautiful summer day here in Kentucky. But today I'm going to discuss probably the biggest disease of failure that many people suffer from. But before I do that, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my blog post. Somewhere on this page you'll see a link that says subscribe. Just click on that link and subscribe to my blog post so you can get the latest updates as I make them available to you. Anyway, back to the blog post today. Yesterday I began reading a book called The Magic of Thinking Big by Dr. David Schwartz. Today I want to talk about his second chapter in that book. I just was finished reading that second chapter. It's called Cure Yourself of Excusitis, the Failure Disease. So just wanted to share some of my thoughts on what I've read so far. Now, for years, I've known that the most effective way to become successful in life is to study the habits of successful people and then to incorporate those habits into my own life. Dr. Schwartz did a fantastic job in this book contrasting the habits of successful people with those of unsuccessful people, and he observed that the unsuccessful people have what he calls an excuse for everything, and he affectionately calls that excusitis. He says they suffer from excusitis, the failure disease. Now, as I reflect on different people in my own life, I see how this how true this really is. I can see that the least successful of the people that I know always seem to have excuses as to why they're not successful. They blame their failures on their health, or poor education, or bad luck, or bad family conditions, or maybe an uncooperative spouse or something like that. The thing is that I see many of my other friends that have these exact same situations in their life, and yet they're very successful and live a very rewarding life. One person that comes to mind right away is Joyce Myers. Now, she's the evangelist that's on television. She was, and she's also a best-known author. She was sexually abused during her childhood and her early teen years. And she was told continuously, not just sexually abused, but also emotionally abused. She was told continuously that she'd never amount to anything in her life. And she held on to those beliefs and those excuses, and she used them in her early life. This led her to an abusive marriage, and even at one point some criminal activity. Got a little plane flying over. Don't have them fly over too much out here. Live out in the country, so it's kind of interesting. But anyhow, once she changed her attitude about herself and others, she was able to put those excuses behind her, and now she's built a successful marriage and a very successful enterprise where she's richly blessed. Also, another person that comes to mind is Bill Gates. I don't know how many of you know his story, but he was a college dropout. And when he started his business, people kept telling him, all the experts in his business kept telling him that he couldn't go up against companies like IBM and expect to win, that he didn't have the expertise to do that. But Bill Gates he didn't hold on to those excuses, and he just went out and he just did it, and he became successful anyway. Didn't let those excuses get him down. I can see it also in my own life. When I lost my very first job, I could have made excuses about how I'm not successful, and at that time, unemployment was in the double-digit figures. Inflation was also in double digits at that time. Interest rates were as much as 20%, and on credit cards even as much as 30% at that time. But I didn't make excuses. I knew that I would succeed no matter what, against all odds, because I knew that I could do it myself, and I didn't let those excuses get me down. I actually put myself through pharmacy school, working at some points nearly full-time while providing for my wife and my kids. So, I didn't let those excuses, I didn't entertain those excuses. I didn't let excusitis affect me. I just went out there and did it. And I can see it at other points in my life too, when things weren't going as well, and I can see that during those points, when things weren't doing as well, that I was making a lot of excuses for what was going on in my life instead of just finding a way to get through the difficulties. Now, Dr. Schwartz is correct in characterizing, in my belief, excusitis as a disease, because once someone finds an excuse for a situation and then sticks to it, that excuse then festers inside them, and it just builds up inside them and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Just like in an uncontrolled infection. The infection will fester inside you, and it's going to grow without the intervention of antibiotics. Excusitis is going to fester inside and grow as one continues to look for more and more excuses for the failures in their life. Now, health is an area that a lot of people use as an excuse for not having success. I know one person in particular that won't travel very far away from her home because she's afraid to be too far away from her cardiologist. So she's had some heart problems in her past, and now she's just too scared to travel too far away from the cardiologist, and she's letting the excuse of her past heart problems dictate what she's going to do in life. On the other hand, I've got a nephew who was born with a congenital heart defect. His heart wasn't formed correctly, and since he was a very small child, he's underwent numerous surgeries. Now he's in his early teens, or his late teens, graduated from high school, and of course, his life expectancy isn't as long and as good as a person born with a normal heart, but he doesn't let it stop him. He enjoys the outdoors. He enjoys hunting and fishing. He has a passion for it, and he stays very active in his life. His condition slows him down some. It's natural. It's going to slow him down some, but he doesn't make excuses and sit around on his butt all day long in the house and not get out and enjoy his life. He actually gets out there and enjoys his life. I want you to reflect on this statement. I felt sorry for myself because I had ragged shoes until I met a man who had no feet. So I want you to think about that one a minute. That says a lot. We worry about and we make excuses for and we feel sorry for ourselves, and then we see that there are other people out there who have situations worse than ours that are having more success. Another excusitis symptom that probably nearly 95% of the population suffers from is one that's basically they don't think they have the appropriate intelligence. Folks, I've never let this one get me down. Don't get me wrong, I'm not bragging, I'm not saying I'm an intelligent person. That's not what I'm saying here. I see and I meet people all the time who have less intelligence than I have, yet they have far greater success in their life. And they've achieved much more in their life than I've achieved so far. And so I see that the intelligence thing isn't an issue there. It's not how much brain sense you have, how much intelligence you have that determines your success. So I don't let that one be an excuse for me. Sometimes the most intelligent people use their intelligence actually to find all the reasons why something's not going to work. So then their intelligence actually becomes a detriment to them because it creates all these new excuses as to why they can't have success. Another example that comes to my mind is Henry Ford. Now, I've heard this one several times over the years, but one of the newspapers back in his time had called him an ignoramus. So he sued them, basically telling them that they need to prove it. So they proceeded to ask him all these different questions about American history and all these other things. But, Henry Ford, he didn't have any type of formal education, so he couldn't answer those questions. And he finally got exasperated and said that he didn't need to know the answer to all those questions. He went on to say that on his desk sat a very powerful tool, the telephone. He said he could pick up that tool and connect himself within just a matter of moments to the brightest people in the world in any particular field and get the answers that he needed. In essence, he told them that he didn't need to know all the answers, he just needed to know where to get the answers. And folks, that's just one more example of not letting the fear of lack of intelligence to put you down. I mean, Henry Ford built, as we all know, an enormous enterprise, an enormous company. And he did it without any formal education. He did it because he learned how to rely on the knowledge of other people and knew where to get the answers. Folks, we've got an even greater tool today than what Henry Ford had back then. It's called the internet. Nobody today can claim that a lack of intelligence is going to keep them from having success, because with the tools that we've got available with the internet and everything else, we have a vaccination, so to say, right now against that form of excusitis. The internet vaccinates us against the excuse of not having enough intelligence. Now, I've only covered a couple of examples of different excuses, different types of excusitis in this short video today. And I could go on a lot longer. I encourage you to go out and get the book, The Magic of Thinking Big by Dr. David Schwartz. That's the book. It goes into it in much more detail. But I just want to ask you, what excuses are keeping you from having your success for today? What forms of excusitis do you suffer from? Now, there's a lot of things happening in the world right now. There's a lot of things happening in my life right now, any one of which I can use as an excuse to hold myself back. But you know what? I've reached a peak in my profession, not once, but twice in my lifetime. Both times, I never let excuses hold me back. And once again, I'm going to reach that level of success, the level of success that I desire. And this time, however, I'm changing the playing field a little bit. This time, once I reach that level of success, I'm going to have much more freedom to spend with my family, much more time freedom, much more financial freedom to spend the time with my family. I'm going to have much more freedom to achieve some of the other goals in my life that center around my church and my community. This time, I'm going to do it on my own terms and without others dictating what I can do and what I can't do, when I can do it and when I can't do it. This time I'm going to do it with my home-based business that allows me the flexibility and the freedom to do exactly what I want to do, when I want to do it. And I really would like to have you join me in this endeavor. I want to share this with as many people as I can, and I hope you do enjoy me. Just follow the link that accompanies this blog post, and I'll share with you what I'm doing and how I'm going to achieve my goals. Once again, Keith Abell, I want to thank you for listening to my blog post. Please subscribe to my blog post wherever the subscription link is on here, and also click on that link and find out more about what I'm doing. Thank you again for listening.